Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back. So today I had a little bit of an idea that I wanted to do something slightly different from what my normal content is. I wanted to fix Yu-Gi-Oh! So today we are going to be taking a look at what I think we should do in order to fix the format. Now, just to be clear, this is not necessarily a ban list prediction because I don't think Konami is going to be fixing the format with the upcoming ban list. We are at the start of national season and Konami tends to pick one or two decks that they want to be the decks for Nats season that are going to be the most played and are going to be a little bit pushed, and I personally think that the decks for this year's Nats season are going to be Ryziel and Malice. Ryziel a little bit more than Malice, but I think both of them are going to be the decks that they want to be hitting them in a way that doesn't really kill them so that they can still be viable for those formats and hit everything around them in a sense that, you know, if you want to win, you should be playing Ryziel or Malice unless you are just cracked as hell with a different deck. Despite that though, I definitely think that there are some cards in the format that simply need to go. I think that there are some cards that need to come back, and I definitely think that we can improve this. So, what do I think is the first thing that we need to do to fix this format? Well, first off, I am incredibly tired of seeing the Fiendsmith engine everywhere, and there are a lot of different cards that you can hit for Fiendsmith cards. People say you can put Engraver to one, you can ban Luri, you can ban Exciton Knight, and ban Moon of the Closed Heaven. But I personally think that the true problem card, and we all know this, even if we don't like it, the problem card is Fiendsmith's Requiem. I think Requiem is definitely the problem card, and I would very much like to see it get removed from the game. Link 1s that summon cards from deck generally have never been fine. They're always leading to problems. Even Link 2s that summon from deck. You know, think of Halka Fibrax, think of Verite Anaconda, think of Nightmare Mermaid. There are always these Link monsters that are generically accessible and just lead to a large amount of extra advantage tend to be problematic. I think there's only like 2 or 3 Link monsters on the ban list that are there for like anything besides extending. I think the only two Links on the ban list that aren't extenders are, I believe, Gumblar Dragon and Appaloosa. Everything else is just an extender, and I think Requiem is a ridiculous card. I think it's a little bit sad because I do like Fiendsmith cards. I like Requiem. I play them in my White Forest deck myself, and they are a really cool engine, but I just think that they're far too powerful and far too easily generically accessible. Next up, we had the YCS yesterday, YCS Vegas, and as you can see, that's a lot of Ryziel, isn't it? There is a large amount of Ryziel in that top cut, and I definitely think it's time that we hit Ryziel in some good ways. Realistically, I would like to see Detonator get banned because I just think Detonator is a ridiculous card. It reminds me of Kashtira Arise Heart in the sense that it's just this really big, hard to out guy that you just slap down and you just look at your opponent, well yeah, can you play through this or not? And most of the time, they can't. I think Detonator is a ridiculously overtuned card that does way too much, especially with some of the other cards that support it. But I don't think they're ever going to ban Detonator. I don't think they're going to ban Detonator. So what I think is more realistic is they might limit Detonator and they might just ban Eclipse Twins. Because if you ban Eclipse Twins, then Detonator doesn't constantly come back. You still have plug-in, but then you need to dedicate a main deck slot to a card that can bring Detonator back. And I don't think a lot of people are going to be doing that. So I definitely think this is fair. And then for other Ryziel hits, I definitely think that we should put Ext to 1. And of course, we should put Bonfire to 1. I think this is more than fair, especially considering that they just got 7th Tachyon, which means that it plus the other spell card, whose name I can't remember right now, are also just able to act as 6 more Rodas for Ryziel. So we're taking away 4 starters, but we're giving them 6 more. So technically, Ryziel with these hits is still more consistent than Ryziel Pure was before the release of Maze of the Master. That's really all I think we have to do about Ryziel for now. I don't know how good Star Ryziel is going to be. On paper, Star Ryziel reads ridiculously because it just gives you the ability to ignore hand traps for the most part, because you'll always get to Detonator plus Cross. But we'll just have to see how that format pans out. This is where I think Ryziel would be in a good spot to where it's a lot more fair to play against. Next up, Malice. Of course, Malice is the second best deck in the format, generally speaking. It's kind of wrestling with Blue Eyes in terms of representation in some events, but generally speaking, Ryziel is the best deck, Malice is the second best deck. So, it's only fair that we also hit Malice. Now, what do I think Malice needs to get done to hit? I actually don't believe we need to really hit the main engine for Malice. Malice is an engine that is very powerful, especially going first, but it lacks extenders to a certain extent, in Archetype at least. They are going to get March Hare, which it looks like it's going to be fixing that issue. But Malice's extenders are mostly out of archetypal cards. You know, think of like cards like Link Decoder and other Link 1s, think of Bystials, Code of Soul, cards like that. And of course, the Attic Nister cards that are coming in Alliance Insight. So the first thing I think that we need to hit for Malice is going to be Nightmare Griffin. Nightmare Griffin, I think, is overstayed its welcome. The card is ridiculous. It's just a very powerful floodgate that Malice can incredibly easily slap onto the board thanks to Abawa Cube. With the Reborn Trap and all the Malice Link launchers pointing to the side, they're also very easily able to just build their own board up again while making sure they can keep using card effects, because if you place your cards correctly, you don't even point to an EMZ, meaning your opponent never actually gets a chance to activate a monster effect that was special summoned unless they're already Link summoning, which means a lot of decks just cannot get through Griffin. I think Griffin is one of the cards that definitely needs to go. Other hits I think that Malice could get. I see a lot of people saying that we need to ban Link Decoder. I don't really agree with that. I feel like Link Decoder is supposed to be a Cyberse extender. What I do think we should hit though is the Bystials. I think there are some Bystial cards that just need to get hit. I think we should put Druisworm to 1 because Druisworm has been showing itself to be an incredibly powerful piece of removal and interaction, you know, doubling as both a DD Crow, then being a Beat Stick, then also being potential Link material, and being a removal in the graveyard. This card just does far too much. We might also want to hit Baldrake at the same time and just leave Saronir free. We might also have to ban Magnamut. I'm not entirely sure if Magnamut is the correct call to ban, because I will admit I like Magnamut a lot myself. I think it's a really sick card, and I think it's a really fun card to play, but it is kind of ridiculous that it's a 2500 attack hand trap or extender for Malice that summons itself from the hand and then also replaces itself in the end phase to get you into even another body, which is usually going to be Druisworm. Next up, here's a card that all of my viewers are probably going to be very surprised to see me put on this list, but I think that it is time for Dimension Shifter to get removed from the game. Hear me out this one. Everybody who knows me knows that I am somewhat of a banishment enjoyer. You know, my favorite decks in the game are Malice, they're Cash, they're Argo Stars, they're pretty much all decks that play under Dimension Shifter. And it is a card that I have in like 80% of my deck I'm playing this card in. But despite me very much liking Dimension Shifter, I cannot sit here in good conscience and pretend like it isn't a very unfair insta-win condition card. The main offender for it right now is Malice, of course. It's not the greatest card in this format specifically. People are pivoting more to pure Ryziel over Fiendsmith Ryziel and Mitsurugi Ryziel, which both of those variants lose a lot harder to Dimension Shifter than the pure Ryziel variant does. Malice, of course, can play through it with relative ease depending on their opening hand, because obviously they're playing it themselves. There are some other roguish decks in the format, though, that just absolutely get obliterated by Shifter. Azamina decks struggle into Shifter. White Forest cannot play the game under Shifter. Merlantian cannot play the game under Shifter at all. So for that, I think it has to go. But if we are going to be deleting Shifter, then I also think we should be deleting Lancia. Because if Malice doesn't get the turn skip everybody else, I don't think it's fair for everybody else to get the turn skip Malice. Ryziel, of course, also now having access to 7 Tachyon means that they can now very consistently find Lancia. So for that reason, I think Lancia is also a card that we should just take out. Now, I think this is kind of the hits that we need to happen for Ryziel and Malice. But of course, there's more decks than just Ryziel and Malice in the format. The first deck that comes to mind for me when I'm thinking about other decks in the format is Atlantean Mermail. Now, I think the Atlantean cards are fine, I think the Mermail cards are fine, I think there is some generic water support, however, that is very much not fine. But I think the first card that we should definitely be removing from the game is Mulan Glacia. Mulan Glacia is kind of a ridiculous card. It just says if you have 5 water, special summon this card and then discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand. In a deck where they already have Minstrel, right? So you get to look into your opponent's hand, banish a card out of it, then rip them for 2 more with Moulin Glacia, putting them on only having 2 cards left in hand. The card that you rip out of their hand is most likely going to be a hand trap, which means that it won't really be of any good use to them on the next turn when they're trying to push through your board. And while you're doing that, you are also putting up like double Totally Awesome and a whole bunch of other disruptions. So I think Moulin Glacia just needs to go. Same way around, I think we should also be hitting the barrier statue of the Torrent. Now, ultimately, I think it's probably best to hit all of the barrier statues because, as you guys might know, 7th Tachyon allows every single one of them to be searchable. I think at least it was everything on it, but most of them are now searchable by using 7th Tachyon. And let's be honest, nobody likes that. Nobody's waiting around to do that. It's just going to cause a whole bunch of non-games. It's just going to cause a whole bunch of ridiculousness. But until we see how prevalent and playable that's actually going to be, I think the only one that we should be banning for now is Torrent, because of its application in Mermail Atlantean. Another card that I would very much like to go see to 0 is, of course, my absolute beloved. I think we should ban Branded Fusion. Why? No reason. I'm a hater. It's my list, and I get to decide how we save this game. Another hit that I think we should probably do, and I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, because everybody knows how much I love this deck, but I feel like if I am being completely objective here, we might have to hit the Kashtira engine as well. We've been seeing Cash being splashed in a ton of strategies lately. From Fiendsmith Kashtira list, to Primite Kashtira list, to Mimighoul Kashtira list. Not that I'm really concerned about Mimighoul or anything, I'm just pointing it out. But overall, I feel like the Kashtira cards are incredibly powerful. They are some of my favorites in the game, but objectively speaking, I think it might be time for Kashtira to receive a hit. I mean, if they're putting Unicorn to 1, we might as well get a Rise Heart back, right? No? Yeah, okay. No, I'm just, you know... A man can dream, a man can dream. But yeah, this is kind of what I think we need to get the format into a much better position. And if you have any other suggestions for what you would like to see in the format, then I would very much like to hear your opinions down below. Let me know if I forgot anything or if you disagree with me. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.